Okay, hello everybody, and welcome back to the James GovKidMethod YouTube channel. And today I'm very excited to be having a short conversation with Brian Sartorella of Summit Consulting. Brian's been going through our 90-day bid challenge. He's had some highs and lows. It's only been 4 weeks, but we've got a lot to talk about and unpack. Brian is coming off of a couple of very fresh awards, and everything's still very new, and we're kind of going through it all together. But Brian was kind enough to share what he's learned and is experiencing going through the program. So once again, Brian, thank you so much for being here and being willing to share your early and your very recent story with everybody in the channel. I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So just to get things kicked off and started, could you just share a little bit about your background coming into GovCon, what had you interested, and what brought you to federal contracting in the first place?
Yeah, so originally a friend of mine told me about it. He had gotten started in government contracting. He kind of told me the basic premise. And then from there, I just started doing research on my own end, just kind of trying to verify, whether what he was saying was actually accurate. And it turned out that it was. And then very early on, I stumbled across your channel. So I started watching a lot of your videos, and then I started looking at, the federal acquisition regulation, just kind of getting the black and white that you talk about in your videos. And that's how I got started with it.
Awesome. So then kind of leading up then to, because it's a newer version of the program that I've been running, the 90-day bid challenge, what were kind of some of your expectations when you were looking at that, making a consideration whether you wanted to join or not? Was it going to be worth it? Like, if you remember back, what was kind of going through your head, and what did you reasonably expect?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say my biggest hope for the program, my expectation, was just having somebody with experience to talk through about very specific situations that can come up within government contracting. Like, research is great. Your channel is great. But, obviously you and I have talked several times about hyper specific situations that have come up, and it was tremendously helpful having somebody just to talk through the situation, kind of, fall into the proper mindset with it, kind of analyze the situation. Like, for example, when I would tell you about, like, okay, so this is what contracting is saying. And then you would come back with, okay, well, this is what they're thinking. And this is where they're coming from with asking that. That was super helpful. And it wasn't a connection I would have made on my own. So that was the expectation. And it definitely was fulfilled, 10 times over.
Would you agree that the devil's kind of in the details when it comes to government contracting?
100%. The devil is in the details. Everybody in the contracting space is just human, contracting officers included. Having said that, the details of the contracts, they're all in black and white. When I was first getting started with it made zero sense. I watched a lot of your contract analysis videos, and it wasn't until I'd watched about 20 of them that I started to actually be able to look at contracts myself and understand them. So yeah, it's absolutely devils in the details kind of industry.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much is.
Sorry about that.
We're good, man. So if we could, as we mentioned, you are coming coming from a couple of very, very fresh awards. One as fresh as officially, yesterday afternoon, yesterday evening, right? So can we just talk for a few minutes off the two contracts? You've been in the program, we're kind of going through week 5 of the 90-day bid challenge, right? Which is not typical to see two contracts being awarded during that time. So let's just, I guess, get started with your first award, just some high-level information. I think it helps to give context to the viewers who are, maybe even at a stage where you were 4 or 5 weeks ago, where, you hadn't bid on too many contracts right before coming into the program. You had a lot of questions, maybe some figuring out some speculation of like, hey, is this thing real, right? Is this just something that people talk about? So could you share just a little bit about the first contract, which is the herbicide treatment, which we had a lot of
Yeah.
back and forth with? Tee us up for that one to get started.
Yeah, absolutely. So that first one, like you said, mentioned herbicide application under a landscaping NAICS code, and then they were looking for a base plus 2. So this was they had recontracted this one. The original awardee was also a base plus 2, but for whatever reason, the option years weren't executed. So they rebid the job. So I didn't even find this one myself. And this is a good detail because this never occurred to me before. But so what happened on this one was I was calling subs for a different landscaping contract. And one of them that I called, I mentioned the contract to them, and I asked if they had a cage code, they were government contracting. They said that they were. So right there, I was like, okay, well, to be honest, you probably don't need me then, because my
like
whole
potential
value,
red flag, right?
yeah, my whole value is working with companies who are not registered to do business with the federal government. And he goes, hang on, first let me take a look at this one. Is it a small business set aside? I'm like, yes. He's like, well, we're not eligible to bid on small business contracts, so we may be able to use you. Also, we have a different one, also an herbicide contract that we're more suited towards, that we've already been looking at. So right on that first call, I was able to, understand an appropriate way to go after an opportunity with a company who also has a cage code. In this case, they weren't eligible for the set aside. And also they had an opportunity that they were already looking at. So that, far exceeded the one that I was looking at, because now I have a teaming partner who's already interested in this job, and already looking at the details, and they want to go after it. So that's how I found out about it. They actually brought the solicitation to me. From there, just working with them on quoting the job, they definitely had concerns about the limitation on subcontracting, which was completely understandable. That particular regulation, it reads somewhat confusing. But for our method, it didn't apply because the total contract value for our bid was under the SAT, under 250K. So we were able to, do this legally. We submitted our bid. The bid got awarded within, I think, like 3 or 4 working days. So very, very quick turnaround. And then since then, working on pre-work deliverables, quality control plan, safety plan, various deliverables like that. Been in contact with contracting officer, the quality control manager. Send us GPS data for all the work to be completed. So it's running along smoothly. Everything's fallen into place quite nicely. So that was reassuring to see.
No, that's fantastic. And the dollar value was just under the SAT, correct? In the 230-ish range. And then what margin did you end up going with that? It was somewhere between 10 and 20, or?
Yeah. So in that one, I really wanted to win this one. My margin was about 10%, just over 10% maybe. Okay. In hindsight, it could have been increased, but at the end of the day, first award, the real value in it is just the learning opportunity. So I'm fine with a smaller margin.
Absolutely. And to add to this, for anybody who's like, wait, who's stuck on the limitations on subcontracting train. So contracting sent a letter of clarification, requesting a letter for clarification to say, how are you going to meet limitations on subcontracting, in addition to some other things as well that we were able to respond to. Pointing that out to contracting, letting them know, speaking to their exact FAR, because when it comes to, say, legal middle manning, right? For those of you who got the book, or just follow this and you're trying to do it the right way, you're trying to avoid illegal pass-through schemes. And this is what we really appreciated about your subcontractor, because they were like, hey, we're a large, so we have a concern too, which we appreciate, because we're like, hey, there's so many businesses that don't respect the regulations. They don't care. They're more than happy to just be reckless and void of any sort of conformance. So we were able to kind of have a conversation with the sub and then write a letter to contracting pointing out, per the FAR, this is actually below simplified acquisition threshold, as you said. And contracting accepted that as a response. So again, for the viewers, contracting had an opportunity to kill this deal. The contracting officer deemed the response to be understood, acknowledged, and acceptable to move forward, including fully understanding the teaming plan and the approach and everything. So anybody who has misunderstandings or they're on the other side of the fence, know that the contracting officer had every opportunity to not move forward with this deal. But because we were able to point out, educate, re-inform them on the regulations, they were comfortable moving forward with this, which I think, that's a lot of what we're trying to get out, to understand that you small businesses, as owners, you have more power in your education than you probably think and know that you do. So being informed really is giving you power. So let's now jump to the very recent, just as of last night. Share a little bit about the second contract award, Brian, if you will.
Second contract award is for a paving job. So this one should, presumably be done a little quicker. Let's see. Not much to tell on this one. Actually, yeah, there is. So this particular case, the quote that I obtained from my subcontractor, it's a fairly quick turnaround on getting this bidded. Their quote came back to me, I think like 3 minutes before the deadline. And this RFQ was submitted on PIE, P-I-E-E. So your submissions are timestamped. And once I had generated their quote in a format that the government was looking for, my bid was actually past the deadline by 3 minutes. Didn't really think anything of it. I was like, okay, second bid. Not going to win this one, but it was good practice dealing with my teaming partner. Anyway, so contracting gets back to me, and they notified me that the contract was made in error, stating that the payment performance bond was waived as a requirement. So they called me because they couldn't waive it. And they said, would this affect your price at all? Because we can't waive this requirement, but because we didn't notify you of this requirement, we can't issue an award unless we get a confirmation from you, which was definitely appreciated because I didn't have a bonding company lined up. So I let contracting know.
Too, right?
What's that?
It's a little scary being your kind of first experience to even having that as a requirement too.
Yeah, 100%. And I definitely didn't want to say yes right off the bat because I did not have a relationship with the bonding company established. So I definitely appreciate the contracting caught their error there and gave me a chance to catch up with the requirement. So this was somewhere around the 20th, and I asked them what my deadline was. I'm like, I'd love to get this work done for you, but I need to know how long I have to meet this requirement. And they said it very clearly. It's like we have to make an award before end of fiscal year, so before today actually. Anyway, so I called around to a few bonding companies, got pre-approved, got to learn the payment performance bond process, which I'd been putting off. I mean, I'd talked to bonding companies before, but obviously you can't get approved for a bond without an award, as far as I know. And you certainly can't execute one. So this was definitely another good learning opportunity. Kind of scrambling to get it done because I wasn't expecting this requirement. But I was able to get pre-approved and notified contracting. Yes, we can still meet the contract requirements to include the payment performance bonds. So yeah, we're happy to do it. And then the award came about 36 hours later.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Is it, am I correct that you may have been the only bidder on this particular opportunity?
If I had to guess, I would say yes. I don't know that for sure. I don't know how long they take to upload these on FPDS, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's on there yet.
Kind of
but
seemed
yeah,
like they were waiting for you to come through, right? It kind of seemed like
yeah,
you were the only option.
they were calling me every other day just to find out, like, hey, how about it? Can you do it? And I'm like, I'm still waiting on a call back from my bonding company. The last thing I want to do is say yes, only for something unexpected to happen, and then I can't meet your guys' requirements. So I definitely, I didn't want to make them wait. I wanted to say yes right away, but I just couldn't. So,
and I have appreciated. I don't think I've gotten to tell you this yet, but I've appreciated, even though guys, everything we're discussing has happened over the last 4.5 weeks. Such a crunch time frame. It's so much to process throughout it all. Since day one, I've appreciated your commitment to managing your level of risk, is one way I would put it, but also wanting to be thorough and not take on more than what you could handle. And whether that's even before getting the first contract awarded, going through that process with the subs and contracting, I've appreciated your attitude isn't just like, let's just run forward recklessly and take it, right? It's been kind of, I'm a bit more methodical, and I think it's maybe part of your personality. But I think it's going to be a great approach to continuing to grow your business. So definitely, don't lose that. But I think everybody, just watching that we're sharing this with right now can even just tell from the way that you speak, your personality, that you are thorough in your approach, and there's nothing reckless about it, which I think is really important to point out. And we talk about so much on the channel, right? There's a right way and a wrong way to do everything. So what was the approximate dollar value for this one? I know it's going to be a smaller one, and it's probably going to try and get it in before the winter, correct?
Yep. So we're, and I talked to my teaming partner. He's totally fine with doing it prior to the winter. Contract value for this one is about 160.
Similar margins, or are the margins a little
no,
better?
In this case, about a 20% margin.
Yeah, that's great. That's double. That's awesome. Yeah, good for you, man. Good for you. So I know throughout this process, and again, such a short time period, one of the things we talked about on multiple calls that's come up with you, but also other participants in the 90-day bid challenge too, is calling subs, right? And we've done some mock calls. We did some examples, right, inside the program. But for you, getting, for example, subs to call you back, perhaps maybe feeling frustrated or feeling like a little unsure how to approach that. How have you been able to kind of continue to push through despite facing that without losing any seeming momentum? Because now you're coming off 2 awards.
I would say just have a goal. So in my case, I was like, okay, I'm going to make consistent phone calls for every solicitation that I want to go after. Originally, I started out only calling, 4 or 5 subs on a solicitation. And then you had mentioned something that seemed so obvious. I don't know why I didn't think about it before, but your number is more like 10 to 12. So, okay, that it seems obvious when you hear it, but so I moved up to 10 to 12. A little bit more deliberate with deciding which contracts I choose to go after, including the number of potential subs that are in the area as part of my requirements before I even start making phone calls. And then just kind of telling myself, like, okay, I'm going to make phone calls, for 1 solicitation a day. So that's, 10 phone calls a day. If you compare that to somebody who's in sales, it's really not that many. That's like they're looking at 50 to 100 calls.
That's an hour. That's a half an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Having said that, I just making these calls was new to me. Definitely felt awkward doing it at first, maybe even still a little bit now. the imposter syndrome, like that is definitely prevalent. So I just kind of like said like, okay, I'm just going to do this process regardless of how I feel about it for X amount of time. And then along the way, try to refine it and see what different tactics help out with getting callbacks from subs, whether they like email, whether they like multiple calls, whether they like voicemail, what information they like to hear right off the bat. So I just kind of tried different things, committed to, a goal of this many calls, this many contracts per week. And then I started getting callbacks, which actually identified another problem in my system. They always seem to call back at the least opportune times. I'd be in the car, I'd be away from my computer, and, I'd get a call like, hey, this is so-and-so from, whoever paving. And I'm like, oh yeah, hi, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not in front of my computer right now. What did I leave a voicemail about? So that was a little embarrassing.
Yeah.
So it's just managing. So, and then the way that I'm navigating that is I'm no longer doing one solicitation per day. I'll do phone calls for one solicitation every couple of days, and be a little bit more deliberate about each one as opposed to going after, 5 a week. I'm only going to go after 2 or 3 a week, maybe.
So I hear you, and this kind of goes to my next question. So I guess I'll just ask it, like, how has your mind shift started to shift, even though it's been a month and you've got a long ways to go? You're just getting started. You're not at the end of anything by any means, but so much has already happened. How has your mind shift started to change after kind of going through so much in a short period of time?
Yeah, I would say definitely an increase in confidence, making these phone calls, dealing with the contracting officer. I just feel a little bit more comfortable with every aspect, having gone through not every aspect yet, because I haven't, seen one of these contracts through to completion, but gone through a number of, aspects about contracting that I just didn't have the opportunity to go through prior to award. So definitely a lot more confidence just going through each stage. I would say that's probably the biggest shift that I've had.
And before we move on, like, what do you think is the biggest contributor to kind of like that awkwardness? Because I know so many struggle picking up that heavy phone, especially if you don't come from a sales background where you're exposed to like, doing 10 calls every 30 minutes or something like that. Like what could you say that would potentially reframe it? Or, we talk about so much, like I say, like getting your power back. I'm not sure how helpful that actually converts over to you, but like in your own words, like what's been helpful, or what would you say from your own experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say the biggest difference between making phone calls to subs and sales calls, like sales, it seems like a tremendously difficult job to do. Some people are really good at it. They just have a natural ability for it. I've never known myself to have a natural ability for sales. But the way that this is different is with sales, you're trying to obviously sell somebody and get them to pay you. When I call subs, I'm offering to pay them. I'm literally calling them to drop a job into their lap, to do all of the administrative requirements for it, and to open up their business to a whole nother market if they're not already there, via federal government contracting. So at the end of the day, your phone calls to subs, and this is what I try to remember the most, you're doing them, I wouldn't call it a favor, but you're bringing them business. You're bringing them work. You're calling them to pay them for work that they do, provided that they give you what you need in order to submit the quote and then do the job effectively. So if they're willing to do what they say that they do for a living, that's all they have to do, and then you pay them. So that would be the biggest difference between my calls, calling a sub, and being in sales. And so I try to just remember that before each call.
I think that's powerful. We did orientation last night for some of the new participants joining the challenge this week. You'll get to meet them on Thursday during our weekly check-in. A great addition to the group, I think. And you said exactly what I told them last night. So it's just truly powerful with that reframe. You are bringing potential subcontractors, would-be teaming partners who you're reaching out to. You're bringing them an opportunity. And I told the group last night, they definitely have customers that they would love to fire, right? And replace with a federal contract customer that's going to be a contract for 2, 3, 4+ years, right? They've got this, company that they, it's 1 month at a time, a couple weeks at a time. They don't pay on time. They're just the nightmare to deal with. All established businesses in the commercial space who have an existing customer base have customers like that. So speaking to their pain points and letting them know the benefits and the advantages to them that you are bringing to their front door, as you just said, is exactly what I consider to be the most powerful reframe as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that you said that. So I don't know how you'll answer this question, but we'll see. If you had to do your first 30 days over again and, you're just kind of fresh off of those, is there anything that you would do differently, kind of knowing what you know now?
Not as of right now.
It's hard to say, right? Because that got you to where you are right now.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely, the results that have come in the last 30 days exceeded my wildest expectations. Having said that, right now I'm only at award and I haven't actually completed the work. So I guess maybe a bit too early to maybe down the road with the benefit of hindsight, I'll have wished I did something slightly differently. But, as I'm sitting right now with both of these contracts, the details for both of them are coming together very nicely. I'm waiting on a few admin things that I'm ahead of schedule on. So as of right now, anyway. So no, I'd say I'm happy with where I'm at right now. And maybe I'll have a better answer, a month from now.
Absolutely. So what's next for you over the remaining, 60 days of the challenge? So much has already happened in the first 30. It seems maybe a bit obvious, but I'd like to hear it in your words.
Yeah, I think I'm going to kind of sit tight on bidding any more jobs for now. The first contract, I'm about caught up with all the administrative requirements, and the first task order is about to be completed in a week. So presumably that one should be on autopilot after that. This second one, not nearly as many deliverables, surprisingly. I reached out to contracting this morning. But, there's a handful. So in terms of what's next, finish the administrative requirements for pre-work, and then try to make it down to one, if not both, job sites just to meet everybody in person. Hopefully contracting is, actually in the office for these jobs. I know this government shutdown is imminent, but yeah, hopefully make my way to the job sites, meet everybody, teaming partners, contracting, and then just make sure I'm doing everything I need to do to get that perfect CPARS. So that's what's next.
Absolutely. And I just want to really highlight what you just said. You're traveling. You're going to be there at the site as well. So I can't stress it enough. Your engagement, your commitment, your hours being spent very literally on the job performance, in addition to your larger teaming approach, just further goes to your commitment to not only compliance, but to making sure you do a really good performance on the CPARs, because you are managing the subs, right? You and your business have a job to do, just as your teaming partner does as well. Before we wrap this up, I have a little bit of a bonus question that I was thinking of when you were answering this last question. So this speaks a little bit to the question that you asked me the other day in the community. So it's more of a fun one. So vision board, whatever, right? Into the future, we look a year or two into the future. Presumably you are continuing to grow and just triple down, right? Where do you think this could go? Where would you like to see things grow? And what effect do you think that could have on, your personal life, your family life? How can it impact your lifestyle and everything like that?
Yeah. So I'd say my immediate hope is that I can create a large enough cash reserve to kind of, as you said it, double down, maybe have enough to shift to self-performance in one industry or another. So
Like
that would be the
100%
immediate.
performance. Yeah.
Yeah. The self-performance is probably the most immediate goal. Kind of what I mentioned the other night in our conversation, I don't really have a plan in terms of how I'm going to get that done. But my assumption is having that cash reserve is definitely going to come into play. Long term, it's hard to say right now. Like, I definitely appreciated your answer talking through the staffing of what a functional, established government contracting business might look like. So maybe something like that, not the largest team, but just a number of people all working towards, the same goal of landing government contracts. And hopefully, if it's an industry where you can also reach the private sector, that would be obviously ideal. So you're kind of touching every part of the market or every different market. So the kind of very far away plans, but yeah, that's kind of how I'm thinking about it.
I love that. And I have no doubt that you can, really take this as far as you want. There's been a lot of folks that have been doing government contracting, for example, 1 to 2 years, and they go after contract values that are, micro purchases or 10, 20, 30, 40. It's 40,000. Like, it's hard to gain any sort of financial traction when you're going after opportunities so small and with, maybe 5% margins, being in the 5 and under club with supplies or 10 and under club with supplies. So you're already starting in such an amazing foundation and worth more than the actual financial component. As you said, I think the experience is invaluable that you're gaining, and you're going to continue to gain as you see these actually throughout the entire life cycle, of the contract.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, couldn't agree more.
So Brian, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you so much for sharing your short but intensive journey thus far. I think it would be awesome to follow up with your journey in a year or so to see where you're at and showcase that with the community. Guys, if you are just joining us, you're new to the channel, definitely subscribe so you don't miss out on additional trainings and GovCon interviews like this. Make sure you smash that like button and drop a question down below if you had a question from today's interview. Again, Brian, thank you so much for being here, guys, and we will see you all on the next training.
Thanks, Derek.